On the night my brother died, there was no one at the door. There'd been no one at the door other nights too, but on that night in particular, there was especially no one at the door. When the knocking came, there was no one at the door. When the scratching came, there was no one at the door. When the howling and wailing and banging came, there was also no one at the door. I used to crawl under my covers, embracing my little sister like she was the last living thing in the world. When there was no one at the door, it was cold, so cold outside that if you spat, the saliva would stick to your tongue, an ice droplet of phlegm you'd have to pull from your skin. So we huddled together, my sister and I, and tried to forget that there was no one at the door. And when I'd peek out from under my covers, tears running down my face, scared out of my mind, my father would stand there, arms folded, an unflinching gaze in my direction. "There's no one at the door," he'd say. And on most nights we would fall asleep and wake up to find our mother and father and brother downstairs preparing breakfast, and we'd forget that there was no one at the door. But on the night my brother died, I couldn't sleep. The noises were different, gone from knocking and scratching and banging and wailing to whimpering and sobbing. And then my mother did the one thing we were told to never do. She opened the door when there was no one at it, and my brother was dead. After the funeral, I changed. There was an anger in me, defiant and overwhelming. I lashed out against everyone, my mother in particular, for what I'd thought she'd done, and I did things you're not supposed to do, steal and lie. And then one night I woke up naked and alone in the freezing cold outside our home. I tried to open the door, but it was locked. I knocked and banged and scratched and howled and wailed, but no one would let me back in. Defeated, close to hypothermic, I rolled up into a ball by the front door, teeth chattering, fingers and toes unresponsive. And then I heard my father's voice from upstairs. "There's no one at the door. After having a child of my own, after having you, I've come to realize my parents' mistakes, the flaws of my father's malice, my mother's endless cowardice. There are better ways, little one, to resolve these things. Honesty, communication. So, as we sit here listening to the knocking and banging and screaming and wailing, huddling together in the cold, I want to be perfectly clear. There is someone at the door, but we cannot let your mother back in, not until she's learned her lesson."